All right, today we're jumping into a story from ancient times that honestly feels more like a modern political thriller. It's got everything: a high-stakes conspiracy, unshakable faith, and a king totally tracked by his own power. This is the story of Daniel in the Den of Lions. And really, the whole thing hinges on this one fascinating question. How can a law, something that's supposed to create order, get twisted into a weapon? This story is a perfect case study in how legal systems can be played, manipulated for someone's personal gain. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in the massive Persian kingdom, ruled by a guy named King Darius. To run this huge empire, he's got a bunch of governors, and overseeing them, he has 3 top administrators. And one of these top guys is our man, Daniel. Now, Daniel wasn't just, good at his job. He was a superstar. He stood out so much that the king was literally about to promote him to be his second in command, to run the whole shebang. And as you can probably guess, his colleagues were not exactly throwing him a party. And this really lays out the whole conflict, doesn't it? On one side, you've got Daniel, trustworthy, honest, no corruption to be found. And on the other side, you've got his peers, totally eaten up with jealousy. So they start digging. They're trying to find any little piece of dirt on him, any mistake in his government work. And they come up with absolutely nothing. And this leads them to this wild realization. They basically admit to each other that Daniel is so clean, so incorruptible in his public life, that the only possible way to trap him is to use his private faith against him. Think about that. His greatest strength, his integrity, becomes the very thing they decide to target. So that brings us to Act 2, the political trap. Now that they've found his one supposed vulnerability, his rivals put together a plan with some seriously chilling precision. Their strategy was just a masterclass in manipulation. Step 1, flatter the king. Propose a law that strokes his ego. Step 2, attach a penalty that is terrifying and final, the lion's den. Step 3, lie. They pretend that all the officials are on board with this. And step 4, the real kicker, they make the law irreversible. And here's the trap itself. The new law says that for 30 days, nobody in the kingdom can pray to anyone, God or man, except for King Darius. I mean, this thing was tailor-made. They knew Daniel's daily habits, and with the stroke of a pen, they just made his personal devotion a capital crime. Now, this right here is the engine that makes the whole plot work. The law of the Medes and Persians was a real concept. It meant that once the king signed a decree, it was set in stone. Not even the king himself could take it back. The conspirators knew this legal loophole, and they used it to back the king right into a corner. So, what does Daniel do when he hears this law has been passed? He goes home, opens his windows, and he prays. The story makes a point to say this is exactly what he'd always done. He's not staging a big protest, but he's not changing who he is either. He just quietly walks right into their trap. And just like that, the trap snaps shut. This is the moment we've all been waiting for, the climax of the story, the unavoidable, terrifying consequence of that law. As soon as the accusers run and tattle on Daniel, the king's reaction is instant. He's devastated. He realizes in a flash that he's been played. His own ego was used against him to corner his most loyal official. He spends the entire day trying to find a way out, any legal loophole to save Daniel, but there's nothing he can do. He's trapped by his own unchangeable law, so the king has no choice. He has to give the order, and as Daniel is being taken to the lion's den, these are the king's last words to him. It's not an order, it's a desperate hope from a powerful man who just realized he's not so powerful after all. You can just feel the king's agony all through the night. The den is sealed, not just with a stone, but with the king's personal seal, making it all official. And Darius just falls apart. He can't eat, he can't sleep, he's just tormented. The second the sun comes up, he races to the den and calls out for Daniel, his voice just filled with anguish, having no idea what he's about to find. This brings us to the final act. What exactly went down in that sealed den overnight? Well, the answer is a mind-blowing deliverance and a complete reversal of fortune for everyone in this story. The king shouts into the darkness and a voice calls back. It's Daniel. He's alive. And he explains that it wasn't just luck. He says, "My God sent his angel and he shut the mouths of the lions." Why? Because I was found innocent in his sight. Wow. So they pulled Daniel out of the den, and he is completely unharmed, not a scratch on him. And the story is crystal clear about the reason, because he had trusted in his God. The narrative draws a direct line between his faith and his survival. And talk about a dramatic turnaround. The final score is just a study in contrasts. Daniel is saved. King Darius is overjoyed. But the accusers? Their scheme backfires in the most brutal way. The king orders them and their families to be thrown into the very same den. And the story says the lions got them before they even hit the ground. But the story doesn't stop there. King Darius is so moved by all of this that he issues a brand new decree for the whole empire. Only this one isn't about him at all. It's a law telling everyone to respect the God of Daniel, acknowledging a power much, much greater than his own, a God who actually rescues and saves. And as for Daniel, his career didn't just get back on track. He thrived. He went on to serve at the highest levels of government, not just for Darius, but for the next king after him. A pretty powerful end to his story, showing his integrity paid off. And that brings us right back to where we started, with a big question. This ancient political drama makes us ask, when what you believe in your heart is suddenly made illegal by the government, what happens next? This story gives one pretty dramatic answer, but it's a conflict that we see again and again throughout history. What do you do when the law of the land clashes with the law of your own conscience? It's definitely something to think about.